In 3 months, you can change your finances. Here's how. Full 20-minute YouTube script. Hook, 00 to 0115. What if I told you that your financial situation could look completely different just 90 days from now? Not because you suddenly won the lottery, not because you received a huge inheritance, and not because you discovered some secret investment that guarantees overnight wealth. I'm talking about something much more realistic. 3 months of making better financial decisions. Because here's what most people get wrong about money. They think improving their finances requires years. They think they need to earn 6 figures. They think they need thousands of dollars sitting in the bank before they can start. But that's not necessarily true. Sometimes the biggest financial transformation begins with something much simpler. Knowing exactly where your money is going and taking control of it. Imagine looking at your bank account 90 days from now and seeing less unnecessary spending, less high-interest debt, more savings, and a clearer plan for retirement. That may not make you wealthy overnight, but it can put you in a completely different financial position. And today, we're going to walk through a practical 90-day financial reset. 7 steps, 3 months, 1 goal. Get your money working for you instead of wondering where it went. So let's start with the step most people skip. Step 1, find out where your money is actually going. Before you can improve your finances, you need to know what you're actually dealing with. And that means doing something that sounds incredibly simple, but can be uncomfortable. Track your spending. For the next 30 days, write down every dollar that leaves your account. Your mortgage or rent, utilities, groceries, gas, insurance, restaurants, streaming services, online shopping, subscriptions, entertainment, everything. And don't judge yourself while you're doing it. The first month isn't about being perfect. It's about getting the truth. Because a lot of people have a general idea of what they spend, but a general idea isn't enough. You might think you spend $300 a month eating out. Then you actually look at the numbers and discover it's $500. You might think your subscriptions cost $40 a month. Then you find 6 different subscriptions totaling $85. And here's where things get interesting. Let's say you discover you're spending an extra $350 every month on expenses that aren't really important to you. That's $4,200 a year, and you didn't need a second job to find that money. You simply needed to see it. That's why your first 30 days should be about awareness. Don't start by trying to completely change your lifestyle. That's $4,200 a year, and you didn't need a second job to find that money. You simply needed to see it. That's why your first 30 days should be about awareness. Don't start by trying to completely change your lifestyle. Start by collecting information. At the end of each week, sit down for 15 minutes and ask, where did my money go? What surprised me? What purchases actually made my life better? And what purchases do I barely remember? That last question is extremely important because the goal isn't to cut everything. The goal is to identify the spending that gives you little or no value. And once you know that, you're ready for step number 2. Step 2, cut the expenses that don't add real value, $330 to $550. Now that you've tracked your spending, it's time to make some decisions. But don't make the mistake of thinking financial improvement means cutting everything you enjoy. That's not sustainable. If you eliminate every restaurant meal, every vacation, every hobby, and every little thing that makes life enjoyable, you may save money for a few weeks. Then you'll get frustrated and go right back to your old habits. Instead, use a simple question. Is this expense worth it to me? For example, maybe you have 3 streaming services. You use one every day. Another one you watch once a month. And the third one you completely forgot about. cancel the third one. Maybe you eat out 4 times a week. You don't have to stop eating out completely. Try reducing it to twice a week. Maybe you spend $150 every month on impulse purchases. Set a 24-hour rule. If you want something that isn't necessary, wait 24 hours before buying it. You'll be surprised how often you decide you don't actually want it. The same principle applies to convenience spending. Food delivery, premium memberships, constant online shopping, upgrading perfectly good electronics. Remember, a discount isn't a savings if you didn't need the item in the first place. Let's say your first month of tracking reveals that you can realistically cut $300 per month. That's $900 over 3 months. But more importantly, you've created a new monthly cash flow surplus, and that money now has a job. It can go toward debt, savings, retirement, or an emergency fund. And that brings us to the third step. Step 3. Build your first financial safety net. 550 to 815. Here's something that can completely change the way you feel about money. Having cash available for unexpected expenses. Because financial stress often doesn't come from normal bills. It comes from surprises. The car breaks down. The water heater stops working. A major home repair appears. You have an unexpected medical bill. Your hours at work are reduced. And if you don't have savings, you may turn that emergency into credit card debt. The car breaks down. The water heater stops working. A major home repair appears. You have an unexpected medical bill. Your hours at work are reduced. And if you don't have savings, you may turn that emergency into credit card debt. That's why your 90-day financial reset should include an emergency fund goal. Don't get overwhelmed thinking, I need 6 months of expenses immediately. Maybe that's eventually your goal, but start somewhere. Your first target might be $500, then $1,000, then 1 month of essential expenses. The exact amount depends on your situation. The important thing is creating a buffer. And here's a simple strategy. Take the money you found from cutting unnecessary expenses and direct it toward your emergency savings. If you free up $300 per month, that's $900 in 3 months. Add another $100 from selling things you don't use. Now you're at $1,000. That's a meaningful first step. And you can also automate the process. Instead of saying, I'll save whatever is left at the end of the month, try, I'll move the money into savings first. Because if you wait until the end of the month, there may be nothing left. Automation removes the decision. Your money moves before you have a chance to spend it. But there's another financial problem that can completely overpower your savings progress, and that's high-interest debt. Step 4. Attack high-interest debt. If you have credit card debt with a high interest rate, getting rid of it can be one of the most powerful financial moves you make. Think about what interest does. When your money is invested, you want compounding to work in your favor. But when you're carrying expensive debt, interest is working against you. You may make a payment every month and still feel like the balance barely moves. That's why you need a plan. Start by listing your debts. Write down the balance, the interest rate, the minimum payment, and the due date. Now you can see the entire picture. There are different strategies for paying off debt. Some people prefer the debt avalanche, where you focus on the highest interest rate first. Others prefer the debt snowball, where you focus on the smallest balance first to create quick psychological wins. The best strategy is one you can realistically stick with. And don't make another common mistake. Don't use every dollar of your savings to pay off debt and leave yourself with absolutely nothing. If an emergency happens immediately afterward, you could end up right back on the credit card. So try to build at least a basic cash cushion while aggressively addressing expensive debt. And if you're struggling with debt, Don't be afraid to seek qualified financial or nonprofit credit counseling. The goal isn't to feel ashamed. The goal is to create a plan. Now, reducing expenses and paying down debt are powerful. But there's another side of the equation. You can only cut expenses so far. At some point, you need to ask, can I increase my income? Step 5. Find a way to earn more. 1045 to 1310. This is where your 90-day reset gets interesting. Because there are two ways to improve your cash flow. You can spend less, or you can earn more. And ideally, you do both. Increasing income doesn't necessarily mean getting a completely different career. Maybe you can work overtime. Maybe there's a part-time opportunity. Maybe you have a skill that someone would pay for. Photography, writing, tutoring, consulting, repair work, driving, pet sitting, selling products, freelancing, or even selling items around your house that you no longer use. Look around your home. Closets, garage, basement, storage room. You may have hundreds or even thousands of dollars worth of things that you haven't touched in years. Now, don't think, I need to make another $5,000 a month. That's not the point. Start smaller. An extra $200 a month is $2,400 a year. An extra $500 a month is $6,000 a year. And if you use some of that additional income to eliminate high-interest debt or build savings, the impact can compound over time. But here's the important part. Don't increase your lifestyle every time your income increases. That's a trap. If you get an extra $500 and immediately spend the entire $500, your financial situation hasn't really improved. Instead, give the new income a purpose. Maybe 50% goes toward debt, 25% goes toward savings, 25% can be used for something you enjoy. The percentages can vary. The principle is what matters. Give your extra income a job before you receive it. And now we're ready for one of the most important steps for long-term financial security. Step 6. Automate your retirement savings. 1310 to 1540. If you're working and have access to a retirement plan, this is where your 90-day reset can move from short-term improvement to long-term wealth building. Look at your employer's retirement plan. If your employer offers a 401k match, understand how it works. In many cases, employers contribute additional money when employees contribute to the plan, subject to the plan's rules. If you're eligible for a match and you're not taking advantage of it, you're potentially leaving part of your compensation on the table. But don't stop there. If you're already contributing, consider whether you can gradually increase your contribution rate. You don't have to jump from 3% to 20% overnight. Try increasing it by 1 percentage point, then another 1% later. Small increases can become meaningful over time. You can also explore other retirement accounts, depending on your circumstances, such as an IRA. And here's something important. Don't make retirement investing more complicated than it needs to be. You don't need to chase every investment trend. You don't need to constantly trade. And you certainly shouldn't invest in something you don't understand, simply because someone online says it's the next big opportunity. Your retirement strategy should fit your goals, time horizon, risk tolerance, and overall financial situation. The most important thing is creating a system where saving happens consistently, because consistency can matter much more than trying to perfectly time the market. Step 7. Create a weekly money routine. 1540, 1745. Now we've reached the step that can keep everything else working. You need a routine. Because a financial plan isn't something you create once and forget. It's something you maintain. Set aside 15 to 30 minutes every week. Call it your money meeting. Sit down, open your bank account, review your spending, check your upcoming bills, look at your debt balances, check your savings progress, and ask one simple question. Am I moving in the right direction? You don't need to obsess over every penny. You just need to stay aware. Then, once a month, do a deeper review. Ask, did my spending decrease? Did my savings increase? Did my debt decrease? Did my income change? Did I make any large purchases? What needs to change next month? This simple routine can prevent small financial problems from becoming big financial problems. And it gives you something incredibly valuable: control. Instead of avoiding your bank account because you're afraid of what you'll see, you're intentionally checking your finances. That's a completely different relationship with money. Your 90-day financial reset. Now let's put everything together. Here's your simple 3-month plan. Month 1. Discover and cut. For the first 30 days, track every expense. Cancel unused subscriptions. Reduce unnecessary spending. Create a realistic budget. And identify your biggest financial leaks. Don't try to change everything at once. Just get control. Month 2. Destroy and build. During the second month, attack high-interest debt. Continue building your emergency savings. Look for ways to increase your income. Sell things you don't use, and direct your extra cash toward your most important financial goals. Month 3. Automate and maintain. During month 3, automate your savings. Review your 401k contribution. Understand your employer match. Consider appropriate retirement savings options. And create your weekly money routine. By the end of 90 days, you may not have completely transformed your financial life, but you could have something even more important: momentum. You know where your money goes. You have a plan. You're spending more intentionally. You're saving consistently. And you're making decisions based on your goals, instead of reacting to whatever happens. You know where your money goes. You have a plan. You're spending more intentionally. You're saving consistently. And you're making decisions based on your goals instead of reacting to whatever happens. The biggest mistake to avoid: 1990 to 1935. And there's one final mistake I want you to avoid. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't tell yourself, I'll start when I make more money. I'll start when I pay off the house. I'll start next year. I'll start when the economy gets better. You don't need a perfect financial situation to begin. You need a starting point. Even if you're starting with $50, even if you're starting with $100, even if your first goal is simply tracking your spending, progress starts with awareness. Final, 1935 to 2020. So here's your challenge. For the next 90 days, don't try to become a completely different person. Just become more intentional with your money. Track it. Cut what doesn't matter. Build your emergency fund. Attack expensive debt. Look for ways to increase your income, automate retirement savings, and review your finances every week. 3 months from now, you may be surprised by how much can change when you stop guessing and start taking control. And remember, you don't have to become rich in 90 days. You just need to become better with your money than you were 90 days ago. If this video helped you, make sure to like the video, subscribe to Tyson Retires, and turn on notifications. Here, we talk about Social Security, Medicare, retirement planning, saving strategies, and practical financial education for Americans. And if you're starting your own 90-day financial reset, let me know in the comments. What's the one financial change you're going to make first? Thanks for watching. And remember, your financial future isn't